who is the final character? And no, I'm not talking about Smash Brothers, in which we already know Sora made it. I'm talking about the final character in Age of Calamity, the Guardian of Remembrance DLC. We already know we're getting Pyrrha and Robbie as playable characters, but not enough people are talking about the additional, the final character that's being added to Age of Calamity. It might be because Age of Calamity is a pretty contentious game, what with the original champion surviving and creating an entirely new timeline that appears to be contrary to the original Breath of the Wild. And people have been wondering, how is the sequel to Breath of the Wild going to work when we have this Age of Calamity timeline that doesn't quite seem to jive with it? I have a feeling that the newly added playable character is not being shown to us because it's a spoiler. Because, in some way, shape, or form, it's going to help bridge that gap between the two games. And they may not just stop at bridging those two games together. They may, in fact, choose to bridge a variety of different Zelda games together, such as Skyward Sword, for example, because they've been promoting that game pretty hard, and it is the first in the Legend of Zelda timeline. But just imagine if we get a character such as Girahim added to Age of Calamity's roster. That would be pretty intense. Imagine we get someone like Grouse. Imagine we get someone like Fi, the spirit of the Master Sword. Regardless of which Zelda character is added, I have a feeling it will serve to bridge both past and present Zelda games together and lead up to the sequel to Breath of the Wild. After all, we are getting new story in this Guardian of Remembrance DLC, such as the battle for Kakariko Village, the Battle of Gapongo Village, and more, which I am looking forward to quite substantially. It seems to me that there has to be a way that Nintendo explains to us what timeline Breath of the Wild 2 takes place before the game's release, which I feel happens to be in March to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the first game. And if the game does happen to release in March, I feel that us Zelda fans need to know at least what timeline the game takes place in, if it's not some grand overarching timeline that happens to include every single Zelda game. Which is actually a pretty cool concept for a Zelda game. Just think about it. Breath of the Wild 2 can unite every single Zelda game we have ever played. I'm talking Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, Ocarina, Majora's, even Wind Waker. I'm talking every single game will have elements united into one single timeline. That concept is very interesting when you consider all the characters that could potentially interact and meet with each other. For example, I would love to see Navi, Midna, and Fi in the same scene. Having them all interact with each other, oh, that would be phenomenal. What type of time-traveling shenanigans do you think we will see in the Guardian of Remembrance DLC? And how do you think it will set up the sequel to Breath of the Wild? And who is the final character in Age of Calamity to round out the roster? Just leave a comment in the comment section below. And don't forget to hit like or subscribe if you've enjoyed this or any of my other videos. But most importantly, have yourself a fantastic day. And remember, happy gaming.